Recently, Seyi Tinubu, the son of our president Bola Tinubu, was lambasted for sharing rice in the northern region of the country. Why was he lambasted? Why, after sharing rice in the north, he came to the west and started sharing envelopes and something more tangible? Then the northerners reacted and say, "Look, so you came to us and you started sharing rice." The ADP national chairman is now reacting to that outcry. He is saying that the northerners are now extending the hatred they have for the father, President Tinubu, to the son, Seyi Tinubu. Listen to his views and share your thoughts.
So I'd like to get your comments on the general take, so to speak, that was taken at the colloquium yesterday.
Yeah, well, it was a refreshing, engagement in the sense that you had former presidents, most key political players were in attendance, and the good thing about it was that it presented the, if you like, the spectrum of our political history, because you cannot discuss the political development of Nigeria without bringing in the military and the role the military played, and if you like, disrupting the trajectory that we would have had if the First Republic was allowed to germinate, develop, and entrench democracy as it's supposed to be. So yes, like the former president and the head of state, President Olusegun Obasanjo, said, democracy has been reduced to a government of the few people for the few people over a large number of people. But if you ask me, I think the blame can be put squarely at the doorsteps of the likes of the former president Obasanjo. Why am I saying so? You see, I said the military intervention, which of course was an aberration, distorted or disrupted, that passionate and committed engagement with democracy, and the true commitment of the personalities that were there then to ensure that Nigeria really become the number one, a model of democracy on the continent of Africa. What I'm saying is that the likes of Awolowo, Sardauna, Zekwe, those who are the nationalists, regardless of how you look at it, they were fighting for the people of this country. They were fighting for democracy. They were fighting for the independence. And independence means that your ability for you to govern yourself, isn't it? So when independence was given to us, who interrupted it? It was the military. So, and then from there on, we couldn't again get at building that democracy, which would have been the government of the people, for the people, by the people. Because the military that came in, they had the short-term objectives. They didn't have long-term objectives. So they were not planning for a long haul. They were not even planning for entrenchment of democracy. And even those who came after the military were also not better than the military, because the military had introduced this get-rich-quick, this grab, kind of thing, because they were not there for the people in any case. They were there for themselves, and then they were there to say, okay, what can I get? And that's why even today, even our economy, if you care to trace it, you will find that the hands of the military is still there. Yeah, in the polity and in the economy. And there's a very strong synergy between the economy and polity, because if you control the economy, you control the polity.
So that is still being argued by a number of persons. But when you hear someone like former President Olusegun Obasanjo, who's been a military head of state, and the former president tell you that the latter that is democracy, isn't really thriving. It raises a lot of questions, doesn't it? Because he's had a taste of both worlds. But let me ask you this question. How long will we continue to blame the military? At the colloquium yesterday, it was sort of concluded on that we started, yes, it was a nascent democracy. I refuse to agree that it is still nascent. We had started building on it, but it would seem that successive administrations are not building on the achievements year in, year out.
Yeah, you see the psych, the kind of culture that was introduced. You know, we had a long time engagement with the military. That's why you cannot quickly forget about the role played by the military. And in fact, if you look at democracy itself, democracy cannot be looked at, you know, in a vacuum. You know, you have to take along with it the state itself. You know, and when you say the state, you have to also take along with it the civil servants. You know, that is the people, the vehicle that delivers some of these things that you call divisive democracy. And the civil servants, you know, after the military had lost, you know, trust, confidence in the ability of the state to protect them. Because you remember the military, I mean, the Murtala Mohammed was immediate effect. You know, this one sacked this here. You know, they didn't have anything to go back home. You know, to fend for this. So that kind of lack of confidence, that it eroded the kind of commitment that you had for the civil servants, you know, that came. So this is, and that has not left us. That's what I'm saying. That even the ones coming after them, that kind of mentality of let me make some arrangement for myself, you know, so that when the inevitable, I mean, when something happened, you know, as it happened.
But isn't that what the Constitution was for? I know the argument is that this is still a military constitution, yes, and there's a call for a new one. But shouldn't certain aspects of the Constitution have checked the mindset of a lot of people? True, you cannot change the mindset of a people, but it could check how you implement that thing you have in your head.
Yes, you know, it's a social process, and it takes a lot of takes time. It takes persuasion. It takes, you know, convincing that yes, it is not going to be the way it was before. You know, so yes, Constitution. It's like you rightly say, it's a military constitution. That's why so many parts of the Constitution, many provisions in that Constitution were just the military decrees exactly, that were just, you know, modified and then panel together and then to give us. But as even at that, I agree with you that we should begin now to effect a change, to take a new dimension where Nigerians will now begin to now trust and believe in their country and believe in the future of the country and believe that the state can take care of them. But what about the level of corruption that we have? How much have we really fought the corruption? Because corruption is the bane of our political, economic, and social development. And until we fight that, it will be difficult, because that has already eaten deep into our thinking that, oh, as a civil servant, I have to really take care of myself. Not because the state is not there to take care of you. You know, you go, you're old. So until we now address those basic needs that institutionalize them and fight corruption, we will not be able to do that.
You know the argument at the time is that during the military regime,
yes,
corruption was by a small, perhaps those in power, the military per se, and it was sort of curtailed to an extent. And when President Obasanjo came in, he instituted the EFCC, the anti-graft agencies, and the idea was to check corruption. Many years down the line, corruption seems to be thriving, and these agencies still exist. So if I ask you, from the Obasanjo administration to the Tinubu administration, where do you think that we got it wrong with regard to how we fight corruption, and this pullback with regard to how much our democracy has grown?
Yeah, you see, the missing link is the ability to really have a democratic government in place. You know, because when you had Obasanjo was not any better than a military government, because the way he sacked the national chairman of the party, the way he will move the so-called FCC we are talking about, you know, to go after some of the governors, the way some governors were removed, which is what we are talking about, with which I assure you is also copying, unfortunately, So these are the things that we need to get out of our system.
So you're saying that the foundation of fighting corruption since your Obasanjo administration has been faulty. That is what has festered to this point.
Exactly. It has been faulty because if we had EFCC, ICPC that were truly independent and were not politicized, perhaps they would have been able to take care of some of these nefarious, some of these issues that, were the infractions that we're talking about in our political culture and things like that. But because those that we had at the heads of affairs, were also, it was like we're in transition, for so long, and we thought that Bola Tinubu coming to power would be now a situation where you have a truly democratic government, in place under a Democrat that fought, for the entrenchment of democracy. So, but that unfortunately is being eroded, for reasons that we have mentioned, which is a kind of autocratic, system of government, because corruption, is at the bottom of everything. Look at how we recruit our leadership. Nothing has changed. If you have money, you could be a drug pusher, you could be a pen pusher, you could be anything. You could be a stock robber. Once you can fill that your briefcase with money and go to participate in any of these political exercises where people are elected, you'll be elected, to come and preside over the affairs of the people. So these are things that we must find a way by which we can fight, and until we can fight them, the system will remain the way it is. In this vicious cycle will continue. So how do we begin to do it? How we begin to do it is for us to fight what is now known as state capture. And state capture is when you, through some awkward means, cow all the three independent arms of government, like the judiciary, the legislature, and then the executive, as we have it today under President Bola Tinubu, because you remember how the principal officers of the National Assembly were elected. All of us, we saw what happened. Money changed hands. They were.
But that didn't start today.
No, it didn't start. No, you are asking me, how do we stop? Okay. How do we stop it? How you stop it is by looking at the state capture. If you don't fight the state capture, you can't fight anything. Because once you can capture the state, you have everybody at your beck and call. And that's what's happening today.
So the reason I brought that up is my concern, and I think this, I speak for a lot of Nigerians who say that all these things didn't start today, but for some reason, they are festered. If you look at someone like President Tinubu, he comes from a democratic setting. His background suggests that he is democratic. Also, he is one of those persons who say that he fought for the democracy which we enjoy today. So are you disappointed in perhaps how he has gone about this democracy, especially in the comment from Mr. Bayo Onanuga suggesting, and this was his response to Mr. Peter Obi when he said that, when he gave instance of what happened to him as governor and drew attention to the Nigeria of today where the president is the one impeaching the governor. Mr. Onanuga had suggested that we should be happy, or Mr. Obi, and by extension Nigeria should be happy that we're enjoying free speech, which we would not have ordinarily enjoyed. How do you respond to that?
Well, I respond to that by, again, calling your attention to the fact that today, this government we have today is not the ideal, kind of structure that you're supposed to have. You shouldn't have the executive controlling the other arms of the government, because that's, the last version of the common man supposed to be the judiciary, isn't it? And your representative supposed to be the National Assembly. They are supposed to represent you, not represent Bola Tinubu, who's the president. Today, what you have is that National Assembly is representing Bola Tinubu. Anything he takes to them, they rubber stamp it. So this is where we must begin to now correct, the system, which you are saying, which is not helping democracy to take root in this country. You ask whether I'm disappointed. Utterly disappointed, and I'll tell you why. When I was the chairman of IPAC, at the collation center, when we had that, democracy was almost, we had that long jam, we couldn't move on, we came out. And we came out because what were we looking at? We were looking at Nigeria, we were looking at democracy. And again we said, well, whatever may happen, the person that will probably benefit from what we are about to do now is a Democrat. So that's why we went out to say Mahmoud should continue, the Professor Mahmoud should continue counting, and we should wait until after the counting, we ever have anything, should go to the court and then seek redress. But what happened? So this is why I'm saying Nigerians should start looking at how we have the state, made up and how it has been captured. You have a representative, isn't it, who is the National Assembly members. So we should begin from there. Because if you don't begin from there, I don't know how you can fight Bola Tinubu, today. I don't know who or what you can do to fight him. Because if it's money, he has more money than you. If it is the state apparatus, he has all of them at his beck and call. So these are the things that we must.
I'm glad you brought up your time as IPAC chairman, because I'm curious to know from you. Because IPAC is an umbrella body for all political parties, yes. And you talk about the lack of independence of the different arms of government. So yes. If we look at the political angle of things and the fact that there is opposition, there should be opposition, and yet the president, as you put it, still controls the opposition. The question is, during your time as IPAC chairman, what did you observe to be the problem with political parties system in Nigeria that has led to this state of state capture, as you put it?
What I observe is that it was the Constitution, assumed that political parties are going to be independent. They are going to be parties that are formed by individuals through their contributions. That is the annual subscription fee that you pay, and that the executives of the party will be independent. They can take decisions, on their own, without undue interferences from, people outside the ESCO. I mean, the executive members of the party. But that is not true today. It's not true for any political party, and that's the fact of the matter. Because he who pays the piper,
there's no independent political party.
Exactly. He who pays the piper dictates the tune. And of course, I would not subscribe to the idea of saying that we should now go back to a situation where the state will now be giving money to political parties, because that was practiced, was tried, and it was abused. So the issue is that we cannot, and again, you can't have democracy without political parties. Otherwise, what you are having is autocracy. So Nigerians must begin to also know that they need to contribute individually. Don't think your 1 naira or 10 naira or 1,000 naira is too small. It's not too small. If you pay your dues. Today, I can tell you, for free, that members of political parties are paid, to even hold membership cards. When you are having elections, people say, wait, we don't have money. We can't come to the conventions. We can't do anything. You have to pay them. It doesn't happen that way. So shall we say that the assumption that government of the people, by the people, for the people doesn't apply, because people have to build their own political parties? And to build, because if you look at what is happening in outside our shows, like maybe the so-called developed democracies, people pay their way to conventions, They don't wait for some big weeks or something like that to now put them, give them transport money and feeding and allowances and things like that. Today, what happens is that governors or those who have money, they camp the delegates. They put them where they want them, and then they tell them what to do. Some of them have never seen the person they are voting for. They have never even heard his name before. They don't even know who he is. So we have to begin from there. What am I saying? The electors, we ourselves Nigerians, we have to have a rethink of how do we look at democracy. Is it money? Is it about money? This mercantile system of running democracy cannot and should not be allowed to ruin, the best form of government, so far that, man, known to man, which is democracy. So it's also our own fault as individuals, as Nigerians.
When you say that political parties pay certain individuals,
yes,
to come off as members,
yes, even to attend meetings.
Even to attend meetings.
Yes.
That almost suggests that the register or membership of political parties is questionable, and that political parties may not have as much members as they claim to have. Now, that raises the question of the deregistration of political parties or the number of political parties that we need. Do we need more political parties or less?
No, if you go by the Constitution, freedom of association.
It's agreed. It's agreed. But so the party system, I'm just trying to get your understanding of what you think.
I don't subscribe to the idea of deregistering any political party, because it's supposed to be that inalienable rights has been given by the Constitution, that you can freely associate.
So you don't agree with the two-party system that some have proposed?
No. It's normally, you don't do it by fiat. No. It's a natural phenomenon. It develops, it develops until it comes to a stage where the two parties are known. Not the kind of two parties you have today. These ones are built on a very quicksand, foundation. So the issue is that it has to evolve, organically. And when it evolves organically, then you now see truly strong political parties that you can say on the one to the left and one to the right, kind of. But the situation today is that, like I said, I'm not in support of registering any political parties. So we have to begin somewhere, and we have to develop. We have to make mistakes and correct them, isn't it? You have to allow parties to practice, fail, and then study where they have failed, and then make amends so that they can now be stronger. And again, the rule, the Constitution itself does not help development of democracy. Whether it's deliberately done. What am I saying? When somebody wins on the platform of one party, and all of a sudden you just wake up one day and say, no, I'm no longer your member. I'm going to APC or another party, as the case may be. So that should be a no, because when you look at the contest, when elections are taking place, it is not the individual's name that is on the ballot. It's the party that is the symbol that is on the ballot. So how could it be? Even logic does not support the idea of you winning. What the party has won, and you are president of the party. You want to leave, and they say you will leave with all the benefits, of the party. So I think we have to look at our laws.
There's a constitution amendment currently before the National Assembly, which has just killed second reading in House of Reps. I think to direct anyone who wants to resign from a political party to go through the process who wants to defect rather, to go through the process of actually resigning from the party.
Exactly.
Do you think that is effective? And will that address, one, decampments, and the concerns around whether or not a person still should occupy a position despite walking away from a party?
No, it will help strengthen the parties, growth of democracy, because if people who have won elections on a political party do not leave, which means they will now help to contribute to the building of that political party. So, but if you resign, that means you are no longer a member of the party, and you lose, every other thing that that you enjoy, as a member of that political party. So I think it's a very good move, and I hope it will see the light of the day.
There's another one, which is for INEC to conduct local government elections. Would you subscribe to that?
Yeah, I subscribe to that. But not under the kind of arrangement, because INEC itself also has a lot of fundamental issues that even INEC people themselves are not happy the way things are. For instance, you now have somebody who should, for instance, that's a state, let me just tell you, that appointed an immediate past chairman of the ruling party in that state as the state INEC chairman. I mean, that's the immediate past chairman of that particular
What state is that?
Yes, of the state.
What state?
Niger State. That's my own state. That's ridiculous. That democracy, that's how much more can you be ridiculous about the whole thing? Okay, so I'm telling you now that if you want to have a free, fair, credible elections, then people that are supposed to pretend over the process must also be truly independent.
There's this argument that they're no longer members of the party, so their loyalty will not be divided. I say this because I had the same conversation with the Osun State Governor, Ademola Adeleke, a couple of weeks ago. And he was responding to the concerns around the state electoral chairman at the time, and he said the same thing.
It's an organized crime, and they know it. If he was on the other side, he wouldn't agree that it's the right thing to do. How can you say somebody has resigned? How do they resign? You know, it's just for you to to answer your question. And then
Mr. Sani, let's come to the state of the nation now.
Yeah.
I want to start off with this reaction that has trailed the gesture by the president's son, Seyi Tinubu, when he was in the north to share some food. Senator Yari, over the weekend, we saw some videos of him reacting to it. And it's almost as though this gesture has turned around to bite him, especially from the northern people. Is this Senator Yari's position, or do you think that he has a point?
Well, you see, the issue is that it's always difficult to separate, the person from the office. What am I trying to say? Is that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as a person today, cannot be separated from the office of the president, isn't it? And I don't think there's anything wrong in any member of his family that can contribute to development of democracy and to making the situation better for the people. They should be denied the opportunity of doing that, because, blood is thicker than water. It's the fact that this is, in the case of Seyi, like you are saying, it's my father. So if he succeeds, I have succeeded. If he fails, I have failed. It goes on for everybody. So, but I think what people are complaining about is the fact that you have chosen a particular region, and then again, you are the contributor to making that region to be poorer than it used to be. Because today the poverty level in the north is unprecedented. We have never had, nobody has ever said anything like that.
You blame the president for it.
Eh?
You blame
we
the
blame the president because
it.
he's in charge. Why go to United Nations and blame the Secretary General of United Nations?
But poverty in the
he's
north,
in charge of the
poverty in the north has existed over time, and many have said that we've had northern presidents who have not contributed to lifting their people out of poverty. So how do you blame the president who's been in office for 2 years?
The president could be somebody from the north or from the southeast or from the southwest or wherever he may be from. The point I'm making is that whoever is in charge is responsible for whatever is happening to the country, especially when you talk about the lot of the people, how the welfare of the people have been eroded, in the manner that it has been eroded here today. So it is the anger of the north against the kind of horrendous, situations they found themselves that is now being extended to Seyi. It's not because Seyi is helping his father, because nobody can stop. Even there's no country where you don't find families, coming together to help, their own. It's allowed. It's a natural thing, that tendency that happens. So I don't blame Seyi for doing what he's doing, but I think what they need to do is to be a bit more diplomatic about it, because what is wrong with, for instance, you say you are doing iftar, and at iftar you are singing, you are dancing. That is anti-Islam. You can't. It's not where you are doing iftar that you start singing and dancing, and then on your mandate we stand and things like that. So they should have done it in a manner that will be in consonance with the teachings of Islam.
Let me sort of play the devil's advocate and ask a very genuine question now.
Yeah.
What is the difference between when Seyi Tinubu goes to the north and shares food for the less privileged, and when a northern politician does same?
The difference is that there is a high level of anger against the president. It's not Seyi that they are talking about. They are talking about the president himself. They are angry with him.
But at what point do the people begin to also hold their elected representatives and their governors accountable?
The moment you assume the office, the very first minute that you assume the office.
Okay, let's do a quick.
You will be accused. I know he may have the best of intentions. I'm talking about Bola Tinubu, with all the very hard decisions that he has taken. He took those decisions because he believed that if we do not address those gaps that we had, perhaps there's no way our economy can get better. Yes, agreed. But the onus is on him to ensure that you introduce dampers, in a manner.
But the president says that since the removal of fuel subsidy, which has caused this hardship, that the states now get more money. So you would expect that the states would have more money to at least help cushion the effect on their people as well.
To fuel corruption, more corruption?
At what level?
At the level of the states, the state operatives.
So you think the removal of fuel subsidy has fueled more corruption at the states?
That's why the governors were so much for it. That's the only reason. That's the only reason why they were so much for it, because they knew that more money will be available to them, and nobody will question them, for the wars or for the hardship that they are facing. This is what is happening. That's why I said the state capture is not only at the federal level, it's also at the state level. And until you can address that, until corruption can be fought, in a manner that will make Nigerians to believe that, yes, we now have a president that really means business. He means that, to work for us, not to allow governors, chairmen, local governments, elected officials to just take advantage of them in a manner that will make you feel as if it's an occupier, how do you say, occupation, military occupation, yes, that they have come to, they're conquered people. So that's the point I'm trying to make. Okay. So the president, haven't made way for these governors to have more money to steal and then do all sorts of things, should follow it up with ensuring that EFCC, like you said, should work as EFCC. ICPC should work as ICPC, so that governors can be also taken to court where it's allowed. I know they have immunity, but even at that, you can prepare your case, waiting for them to leave
Mr.
office.
Sani, we're almost out of time, but a quick party politics just before we go. The new, I like to call them the new Social Democratic Party, considering what's going on. Have you been following development in the Social Democratic Party, and what do you think about that?
No, you see the political dynamics, are such that you see things happening. But again, things are still very, very fluid. If you are like you wait and see what happens, because it's a political movement that it's yet to really have a kind of structure and force that you will say will represent what Nigerians are aspiring for. Not because I am chairing another political party, and it's because from experience I have seen these kind of things happening, and all of a sudden it's just a kind of a flash in the pan, But, yeah, it has happened quite a number of times.
Okay, let's see how that unfolds. Mr. Yabagi is Sani, National Chairman, Action Democratic Party, and former Chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council. Thank you very much for coming.